share our story. It's been great to listen to all the stories tonight. So inspired by the educational system which we've been party to the last year, I was inspired to share my leadership story in the format of a book report. But don't be afraid, I won't literally be taking you through every slide in this book report, but if you're frowning upon the format, it's supposed to be a book report. For those of you who can't recall what that's supposed to look like. So really this is a book about Pioneer Foods and Matroosberg Primary that goes PFP. So of course PFP being the binding factor between these two organizations. And this all started in the winter of 2017 when myself and Jeff was introduced to each other through Partners for Possibility with the aim to impact the Bellhard community in understanding that the school is at the heart of every community. So the main characters, can I introduce all of you? So I would like to share in Jacobus' sincerity with regards to Joe, really applauding you for what you've built into what I believe each one of our lives over the last year. Thank you for that. And also to the bigger group, I really want to celebrate each one of you, and I so look forward to the rest of our journey together. But more of that later on. Right, so for me, yes, a lot is being said tonight about education, but I think Partners for Possibility is to a large extent also all about leaders. So for myself and Jeff, albeit that I think both of us are very much executors and results driven and looking for those tangibles, we can't really tonight put a lot of tangibles on the table yet, but I think we can tell the stories of two leaders that has grown and developed. So for tonight, that will be mostly what you'll be hearing. The school, there's some stats about the school, but the one thing that I really learned from Jeff right from the start is that the school is providing infrastructure for the whole community. And I think we can all salute Jeff for that. You know, I often sat at these Partners for Possibility training sessions where we had interactions with other leaders from wider than only these 7 schools, and I listened to some of the principals struggling with difficult things, vandalism for one, and then I would smile upon it and realize how many of those things Jeff has already conquered at his schools. So I think tonight I want to salute you, Jeff, for really, I started it off on the earlier slide and I didn't read it out loud, but for being what I call in our corporate environment a seasoned professional, in being a principal at your school. And I think from some of the less experienced principals can really learn a lot from you with regards to this red part of understanding the community. Patrick, you were sharing earlier about gangsterism. I learned that is reality for Jeff. Now, when I drive to the school the first few times, my husband would tell me, text message me when you get there kind of thing. That is their reality. He would phone me and he would tell me they had another shooting, and he would be blasé about it because that's just part of his life. But what this guy has learned is how to respect gang leaders as leaders in the community and to take them together to the benefit of the school. He would often resolve conflict in the school caused by gangsterism through involving gang leaders. If ever I've learned something this year about communities that I'm less familiar with, that's the one thing that I've definitely learned from Jeff on day one already, about how the school is at the center of this community and its infrastructure in less privileged communities. And he so beautifully lives that. This is one line, but if you can see that, how that he has opened the school, the library is not only the library for the children. The library is the community's library. So if you walk through the library, you will find that there's lots of books in big print, not for the children, but for the elderly in the community, because it's their library as well. You will walk through the school and you'll see the little computer center with what they have, but then that would be available for the whole community. You would find him at school after hours, and then some of the community members will come in and he would be the one certifying and allowing them to make a copy, because the school is rendering the service to this community, because this is a set of infrastructure that this community has. You will come there after hours and you see the children playing on the school ground. And this guy's heart would be that those children does not have a backyard of their own to play, so they're playing in his school's backyard for as late as they can. He started his school when I joined his journey 7 years ago, and he could testify how the school was really suffering from vandalism, and he managed to get the community to participate and to really protect that school building without any security, without any dogs or anything. And I feel quite safe when I arrive there. So, Jeff, I think we can salute you for that. Being a leader, perhaps I should go back there. I started off by saying Jeff is a seasoned professional, which is an established leader in the Western Cape Educational Department, but also in the community. And if you talk to this guy, when he's not talking about school, he's talking about his community involvement. He's forever busy with something over the weekends. And then ever so often during the week, he will still also need to be the poor person that needs to go and convey sympathy to a family that has lost somebody to the eternal life. So, Jeff, really, I've learned so much from you with regards to really being a leader that's involved in your community, and the fact that the school provides the infrastructure to the benefit of the whole community, not only the children. So I don't really have a picture of the school building, because for me this is the school. This is what it's about. And I love children, and I've got a heart for communities to transform, so this for me is the school. There is a portion of all of them in action. This is the values at the school. And I so appreciated this the first time I visited the school, was to actually see a wall out there with stating out there, proclaiming what this school is about and what this school stands for. So with regards to our leadership, our partnership, you see, I'm a typical accountant, so I keep to the assignment. So assignment to speak to the I, the we, and the work. So this is the people's part. That's some reflection just on the program itself, which we can skip for now. But the thing that I perhaps tonight want to share with our guests, Nico and Lindsay perhaps from Pioneer Foods, and thank you to the company for sponsoring us. Perhaps what I want to share in that regard, feedback to the company and the rest of our visitors, is you start this journey, and as I identified with what Kitty said, you start off and you look at the stranger and you think, okay, now what? It's so different. But what was so beautiful in that very first COP session, I realized it's not so different. I went home and I could write down these things. I realized we all struggle with head offices that makes policies, and then we struggle to implement them. Very familiar environment. I realized that we all struggle with some of the basics not being intact, and then on top of having to find a way as a manager to get the basics back in place, you need to deliver on additional projects, always with very limited resources. And then we also all seem to struggle with the millenniums in the working. So Jeff would forever explain to me about this young teacher, and how he cannot allow the more experienced teachers that's actually already supposed to be retired, he just cannot let them go. I think, yes, I know this. It's very familiar to all of us. And then, of course, I think what Fatima also raised right at the start, the principle about staff engagement and performance management. Wherever you do have people together and you need to achieve a set of results, that's always very important. So I thought we're actually quite in familiar space, albeit total different industries. I think if I can speak on Jeff's behalf, what I think really was the takeaway from him as I observed it, and I'll let him tell his side of the story later on, but what I really could pick up on, I almost want to say, his transformation towards the latter part of our journey together was, he was often quoting this piece from the community building session, that he that has the problem, he also has the solution. And he would often tell me stories as to how he's put that in practice at school with examples of teachers complaining or parents complaining or whatever it might be. So I'll let him tell his side of the story later on. For me, as the business partner, well, I think tonight, Louise, lots was said already about the training sessions, and I think I gave you that feedback already. I really do want to salute the program for the smart way that the training subjects were selected and the chain of events and how it's phased. So ironically enough, when I put down my 3 light bulb moments from the training sessions, I realized that there was very good correspondence to each one of those training sessions. So our HR team back at work, we do annual personnel engagement surveys. And one of the things that was heartbreaking to me from my team, I did a double click with my team once and actually asked them for commentary on certain things. And they actually told me that they think their opinion does not count. And to me that was heartbreaking, because I tend to think I've got an open door policy and people should be able to talk to me. And I thought I was a good listener, and then I can't understand why my team is saying their opinion does not count. So for me the light bulb moment was that from time to think really the impact of listening with beautiful intention. And I realized that in my environment, we all for 5 years were running at a very high speed, and as managers in our organization, we never could take time out to actually sit down and listen to our staff, because we were forever running to a meeting or just slaving away. And I realized that perhaps one of the solutions to that part of the engagement survey question is merely taking time out again to listen to people. Just take that 3 minutes, stop and listen, and not always be busy. So it was not with regards to necessarily my own inability to listen, but with regards to making yourself available and actually stop and listen. So that was my first light bulb moment. The other one was from Flawless Consulting. And for me, in corporate, I used to hate, and Patrick will enjoy this, we often in several meetings together working on group-related projects, and I used to get extremely frustrated in some of those meetings, because I just can't understand why people can't see what I see. And why can't we move on now? Because I've been waiting for them for years now to get to this point that you can change this or that. So yes, I think I was flawed in the Flawless Consulting session to realize I'm the problem. So I realized that it was so beautifully said, the example given there, that often as consultants, we stand on the mountaintop and we look down at our customers down in the valley, and we're quite arrogant and we think they're down there in the mud and struggling, and we need to be the savior to them. But in having such an attitude, we're never going to take everybody together. We actually need to go down our little mountain, meet them in the mud, and then take a new journey, and not get them to actually take their hands and lead them where we think the answer is. We need to take a new journey with them and get to a point, a mutual new ground. And that's actually the next thing from the community building session as well. It's just that revelation of we're actually arrogant in always thinking we can help people. To just assume it's almost a bit of a superiority if you think you can help people. It should rather just acknowledge that whoever is the specialist in his area or her area in that portion of the field of expertise, acknowledge that and then start a new journey together. So the facilitator from the community building session said, asking for buy-in or getting buy-in is transactional in nature, and I will never ever forget it. So often in corporate or other walks of life, even we say we want people's buy-in, and I just had that revelation, but asking people's buy-in actually implies also that you've already made up your mind as to what's supposed to happen, and you must just find a way to convince them to cooperate. And that's not the solution. That's not what community building is about. So I think if ever only those 3 things stays with me, that's really been life-changing in transforming thinking in my own mind as a leader. Then of course the other takeaway is always what is my contribution to the problem. So there's lots of examples in every work area where you get annoyed with your staff or with whatever it might be. And just the principle we ever attended to is what is your contribution to that. So there's lots of examples of that. And then with regards to the engagement with the school, I think myself and Jeff really latched onto the thinking, time to think training. And he shared that it had value for him that I would listen to him. But I'm so used to being in a corporate role, having a responsibility, having a KPI, and we need to deliver on something by a specific time. So it's been so tough for me as an individual to actually now realize it's not about me and it's not about the results that I think I need to deliver or which I think Jeff needs to deliver for his school or for his community, albeit that my heart is in it. This exercise up to now has been availing myself to listen and to support Jeff and to just support his journey in his school, and it's not about the results. So for me the biggest learning in that regard this far was sometimes it's quite easy to just drive through and get those results and jump in. So for me being part of corporate and being used to that culture of having to deliver constantly, it's been difficult, but I've learned that sometimes in life relationship is the end result, and that should be enough. It should not always need to be tangible results. And then, of course, the other thing, and that's what I'm excited about for the next phase, is the fact about sustainability, that be it in partnerships in this PFP process, be it in organizations, to me, sustainability, nothing sustainable can be built through only two people. You need to involve more people in the journey, and it will take time. There's no quick solutions. And then there's some evaluation time, so I think I've conquered some of my personal objectives in this journey. So one could say, is this the end? No, the book is still in writing. And I think for myself and Jeff, perhaps towards the end of this process was only our beginning. So this is the school having their 35th birthday, and with us being from Pioneer Foods and the division I'm working in is essential foods, so we're into bread and flour. So we celebrated a birthday with the school in the proper fashion that any baking company should be doing. But I must say, our marketing team put me to the test. I requested the marketing team if they can kindly assist me with feeding 1,300 people with cake for the day. And unfortunately, I think they got the numbers wrong. They got the cost-saving exercise right, so they decided not to buy 1,300 cupcakes and rather have cakes. And they ended up delivering 41 of these chocolate cakes to the school. So the accountant was all anxious, standing there and trying to figure out how many slices do they need to get out of one of those cakes to feed these masses. And Jeff was quite polite in the process. He just told me, don't worry, not everybody is attending school today. So I never could get myself to actually ask him, so did everybody get a piece of the cake? So for me in that regard, I think we manage in our partnership to resist the temptation, I almost want to say, for a corporate to get brand exposure from this exercise. I think we start a journey like this, and now that the business partner nor the principal is sure exactly what should come from this, and then it's fairly easy for the principal to explain what the school needs, and then if the business partner has actual access to funding, then they can find a way to do something at the school and brand it, and the business will get the brand exposure to it. But I think what we've done well is for a year to not give Pioneer Foods brand exposure. But what I'm saying that is, to me, this program should be investing your own time as a leader, and not about a corporate getting one or the other benefit out of it. It should not be about a corporate benefiting. So we started off by merely celebrating the birthday together, and what I love about this picture is you can see we're already now working into that sustainability side. So this is one of the teachers at the school, which was already supposed to be retired by now. Yeah, both of them, and that is our marketing manager, and I just love how this picture speaks of, again, the smiles, but also the warmth and the relationship. So I think we've got a proper foundation to work from. Jeff, over to you for your side of the story.
Yes, thanks, Renda, for the actual beautiful introduction also, but for what she meant for what is the value that is added to the school. And I want to thank Symphonia and Partners for Possibility also for making it possible that our ways have crossed, our roads have crossed, you know, and we are busy walking a new path. And also, as the overseers shown in the last slide, also that we are still climbing the steps and moving on. But starting off with me, I was a little hesitant in terms of joining Partners for Possibility after this program here. Although I was involved with the COPE, you know, since I think 2009, sitting there sort of didn't really know what is going to happening, and was afraid of certain uncertainties there. But eventually I've decided to join the program with the understanding that I have nothing to lose, you know, and just more to gain. And I can say today that I have gained much more than I've expected, you know. And also it was a sort of a game changer, life change in terms of what I have learned on my journey. I have not just applied it in the school, but yes sir, sorry, yeah. I've just not applied it in the school, but also in the community, and also in my church life, and also on the radio where I'm working on Saturdays, you know, in the community radio where I'm involved in. And so the school actually where I'm in Matroosberg Primary, I must tell you the story of Moses first. You know, there's a lot of people that's actually very cross with Moses, because when he led the Israelites out of Egypt into the promised land, you know, instead of turning to the right, he keep on going into the desert, and instead of turning right into the rich oil fields, you know. So there was a lot of people actually very cross with him. I think today that they are not that rich in terms of the oil and natural resources there. But the same happened with me when I started off at Matroosberg Primary, you know. When I turned into the school, when you turn there at the fire station, the area still looks nice, and then when you immediately turn right, whoop, where am I now, you know? That kind of situation. And I didn't knew previously the school was the front page of major newspapers in terms of the vandalism, and because I wasn't the person who's still up to date, who's reading the Sun, you know. Only when my mother comes and visit, then I need to provide the newspaper. And that was due to the vandalism, and as Lorenda have explained. And the first important thing for me in the school was to secure the building that was still standing. I'm not certain whether you're all familiar with Beauvilon, the school here, when you know, Beauvilon Secondary School. There's almost nothing left of the school. You know, if you drive past on your way to Belhar and the backside, and our school was in a similar condition. No doors, and the classrooms, power has been installed the week before and was cut off just before I came there, you know, into the concrete and that kind of situation. So I thought to myself, what the heck am I doing here? I'm going to go back where I came from, you know, where I was sitting on the stoep and was enjoying the beautiful view in one of the most beautiful places in the country, the in Teslaasdal, actually in Gansbaai also, yes. And then I thought to myself, then this people is gonna think I wasn't up to the challenge, you know. That was another thing in my mind. So I had to work with the limited resources what I had, and the one thing I actually did was to have a community meeting with the people who lives on the border, because our school is surrounded by houses, you know. We share the fence, the Bible crate, with people right around the school. Only the entrance of the school, there's no houses on that side. So sometimes they would take out the Bible crate just to come and shopping in the school, you know, slabs, those kind of things. And when I had the meeting and I told them the importance of the school, and it eventually stopped. And then I had the problem with people jumping over the fence. There were certain areas, open areas, there was a wall, and so I had to have my own makeshift security. So I used the old, you know, the glass bottles which you broken and cemented up against the walls, you know, and that stopped people from getting into the school. And eventually I had to speak to some of the gang leaders also, and so on. So the gangsterism, as mentioned also, is rife in our community, but I can say today, and I know the teacher, I think there was a situation in terms of Mr. Sonamzi, with the teacher. They was thought it was one of the gang leaders' wives who was just living around the corner there by me, and you know, and we also got that news and from that, but also had to deal with it, with that situation. I even had just on Monday morning when I got to school, they told me, "Meneer, Donnie is out," and I said, "Donnie? He's the gang leader of the mafia that was in jail, you know." And on Tuesday morning, the other gang leaders of the sexy boys was also released on the other side, both at the same time. So there's sort of unease in the community at the moment, you know, because also of that, and it has also direct impact on our learners and the parents, you know, and so on. But for me, joining this program, I'm not going to speak about the unemployment. I think Gateway Primary have covered that. Yes, also not done, sorry. Yeah. Oh. Yes, I think also the program, it has sort of increased my capacities, you know, in terms of as a leader. Some of the capacities which I don't even knew have existed, or it's, you know, and through the and especially through the community building exercise, which we were trained through, and then also they have improved my listening skills, especially in conversations. I had a letter now the other day from Labour. One of the teachers have gone over my head, you know, direct, and reported another teacher to Labour. And so I got the report, and at the bottom of the report it states, she was in my office and she told me about the situation, and I've listened attentively, and you know, to a situation, and without interruption. She said in this report, without interruption, and so on. And so when I suggest, well, I need to get in the other teacher, that we need to sit around the table first before, you know, I can do anything. Went to Labour, you know, and Labour comes back, and Labour come and investigate. So I said, yes, you come and investigate, because I didn't have the opportunity, you know, to react on the situation. Yeah, so you go on. So I'll just stand outside the situation. But that was one of the listening skills that with how can I say, yeah, that's happening. And then also, I believe also that I've improved the contractual obligations between my staff, also between the community members, and also between the learners. And I have learned not to be the bouncer anymore, because and there was cases where I sometimes had thrown people physically out of my office. Not teachers, but some parents, in the community where I work. Some of the principals will tell you that, But now my approach is it's much different in a way. So I've learned not to be the bouncer, but rather to be the one from whom ideas could be bounced off nowadays. So and I listen very attentively. So and also for me. How does also have impact also our communication strategies. My communication strategies have improved also as a leader in terms of what we do with the staff, and that one I've said. And also the staff. Where is that slide now? The staff is taking more initiatives in meetings nowadays, and they speak more with freedom and with comfort, especially the younger staff, because they were threatened about, you see that other two ladies there, 35 years in the school, where they've opened up the school and they're still there. And in some situations, the seniority effect, prohibits sometimes the younger staff to engage, or no, it all. We just are sitting like wallflowers here. So that kind of situation, and through the workshops, I've demonstrated also one day with a suitcase in terms of inclusivity, and I had 3 different shirts in my suitcase, just to explain of what I think Jacobus have spoken about. What was the word you were mentioning? Managing. We shouldn't be, that guy that was afraid of? Indifference, yes. And I've explained to them indifference and what it means with a visual, in terms of having the white shirt, the black shirt, the colored shirt, that was actually very hard to find the colored shirt, and they have got that message, and it have changed things, in the staff room, of the way they think and the way they work with the children, and also our think tank has expanded, and it's not just limited to the SMT and the senior staff. Where I normally always would make the statement and say 0.3%, of the thinking of the school is happening in the staff room. Not in the staff room, in my office. 0.3% of everything what's happening in the school. So we have also increased that, So there's more people who's coming forth now with ideas, and who's also sharing their knowledge. In terms of that, and that also led to our marketing team has come up with a strategy of painting murals in the community to advertise the school. Because if you ask the people, where's Matroosberg Weg Primary? I think somebody asked me here tonight that same question. But nowadays when people comes to the school and they have a clear indication in terms of where the school is, and that's also the young staff that have came up with that idea. Can show you a picture or two. I think there's one. It houses in the community at certain strategic points, where you come at the fire station, you also see there, and we've got different slogans on at different areas in the community. Then our community itself, we are raised awareness, also specifically environmental awareness in our community, and we have also invented a sort of letter policy, which were working so effective in the school, and and we have extended it now also to the community, in where, for instance, after break, each and every child must pick up a piece of paper and bring it into the classroom and put it into the bin. So now they're coming to school with a piece of plastic every morning. Each and every child must bring a piece of plastic out of the community and bring it to the school, you know. And so much more. There's somebody who said, sir, can I collect all the plastics now? You know, a guy in the community, can I? Of course you can, you know, because you have seen that opportunity. So he's the recycling, the plastic in our communities. And that have stopped also the litter that was previously dumped in front of our school, you know, on that vacant piece of land there. And yes, just after a graduation ceremony, you know, in the community, this is what the sort of pastime sort of activities which they has. And I think it's from extension 13, not Biala is divided in, you know that you get the upper Biala and then you get the extension Biala. That's now where the late Professor Ricky van der Ros, Professor Jake Scherlon, all those people who lived in the front side of Biala. But in the extension side, you get this as a pastime. You go to Delft, they still play dominoes. You go to West Bank, you go to Menenberg, you go to wherever, and that is what they do. But also sometimes we have netball tournaments at the school community. It's like the teams, community teams. So they come and play on every Thursday and Tuesday come and practice, and then they play tournaments on a Saturday against Delft. This is now sort of small private netball clubs which have started to flourish in the community, but they use the school premises. And as Arenda also mentioned, there's no facilities for the children, you know, like a park or something. So the school is always open in terms of for the community itself, and that's, and so for I believe for our way forward, we are still. I'm going to skip a couple of the slides there. Yes. The way forward, that our partnership is in the developmental phase, and as we mentioned, and I believe that it will be cemented more strongly in the future. And we have identified projects, but unfortunately the time in this sort of circle is a little limited. But we're looking, as they say, in the art of possibilities, you know, that there's a guy that have written a book, I think, Gene Edwards, The Divine Romance, and in the front section it says there is, what's the phrase, it's about imagination always has the power of resurrection which no science can match. And I believe in terms of the projects, and one of the biggest projects which we look to in the future is the building a school hall, you know. So we believe that there is that sort of power of resurrection in terms of our minds, that we can achieve that, but also smaller projects with the books we have said also, but also looking of changing the front section of the school to where it was in the glorious days of the school when it opened. So yeah, I think I'm going to stop right there.